Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's presentation of the Fast Mountain Dew Dash Series here on JTN. I'm your host, Joe Twansky, and I will be joined shortly by Mr. Tommy Bordeaux. Tonight we'll be racing at the beautiful Martinsville Speedway in Martinsville, Virginia. This famed short track is known as the Paperclip and provides some great racing action. Currently, the drivers are all in their own mini session doing their qualifying laps. We will have those qualifying times for you shortly. Uh, Last time the Mountain Dew Dash Series was at Martinsville was in 2019, where then winner Davey Hazard led 15 of the 100 laps of the event. With Davey is not in the field this evening. However, the lap leader from that night, Mr. Robert Baucom, led 80 of the 100 laps. A trend that we see here at Martinsville is cautions. It'll be interesting to see how many of said cautions we have tonight and how that affects the pace of this race. Uh, we hope that you are enjoying this presentation. I urge you to go to Facebook and follow the JTN page. We post the day of each of our broadcasts, just as a little reminder for you guys to tune in here on twitch.tv/Joto2. We also make posts when our replays of our races are uploaded to youtube.com/racecarboy93, which will redirect you to my YouTube page at Joe Tawansky. Again, tonight I will be joined by Mr. Tommy Bordeaux. Tommy is a multiple-time race winner in the Dash Series and also joined us for our Mega Booth telecast at the Talladega Superspeedway a few weeks ago. Again, you can check out all of our race replays on the YouTube page, although going to Facebook is probably the best way where we have all of our information centralized with links to different videos. If you're tuning in with us live on Twitch, feel free to use that comment or chat box to type in some questions for us that we will hopefully answer for you during our broadcast. Any range of questions we should be able to handle, as we are two fairly versed gentlemen with the racing series. You see the drivers now pulling out after their qualifying session. There you see the 66 of Alex Gordon going out to make some practice laps here. Gordo was with us for our inaugural race at Richmond here on JTN and has participated in the Dash Series the last few weeks. Finished top 10 last week at Dover. You also see
fourth place.
Fourth place.
That's right.
And I'd like to welcome in Mr. Tommy Bordeaux to the booth. How you doing tonight, Tommy?
Thank you, Joe. I'm doing pretty well. I'm really excited to be back here in the booth. It was a lot of fun racing at Dover last week. I'm excited to be here at Martinsville to broadcast what should be a pretty good event. Short track racing always brings a lot of heat.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how these drivers. We saw Darren Ingram spinning out in turn 3, all by himself. Martinsville is a pretty slick track. How do you think tires are going to play into tonight's race?
Well, that's a good point, because I think all night long you're going to see a balance with these drivers between both tires and track position. Track position's huge here. I mean, it's one of those tracks where it can be difficult to pass. You know, you can pass somebody, but it might take a while to get around them. And let's say you're back in the field, to get your way back up to the front would be very difficult. So I think you're going to see a lot of drivers look to gain track position on pit road, maybe taking two tires. Ultimately, you might see a little bit of wear later on in a run that could come to bite some drivers who overdrive it at the beginning of a run.
And I think at our last short track at Richmond, we really talked about the tires a lot. And I have a feeling tonight's race is going to play out very similar to that, with a lot of really sporadic cautions. Do you feel that to be true for tonight?
Well, yeah, short tracks, of course, there can be cautions at any time. I mean, this is a smaller racing surface. There's less room for cars to go around. It's also very narrow compared to, say, Talladega we were at a couple weeks ago. So we have the potential for a lot of incidents here tonight, and so cautions could come at any time. So I bet that's definitely going to play a factor in people's strategies and how they differ later on. So it'll be interesting to see. Remember, Randall Coleman stayed out a lot at Richmond last time we were there. And tonight it might be interesting to see who stays out and who tries to get that track position to help them out that way.
Well, we've seen track position has been pretty key here in the Dash Series over the last few races. Randall was staying out at Richmond a lot just to try to hold on to that lead in case they got another quick caution, then everyone would come back in and pit. And just, it's kind of, this series can be very hectic since they're such short races, only 100 miles, not even 100 miles tonight.
Yeah, just 50 miles here. There's not a whole lot of time to get it done, and that really puts the emphasis on qualifying. And Joe, let me tell you, these drivers, it's a little bit of a different mindset compared to, say, the Cup Series, where you have a lot more time to kind of make those moves and work your way through the field. But if you're starting in the back today, it's pretty difficult to make your way up to the front.
And I think it will be very interesting to see. Who do you have winning tonight's race, Mr. Bordeaux?
Well, Joe, let me tell you what. I have that number 18 car of Robert Balcom. Seasons ago in the Dash Series, I was racing here at Martinsville, and he was fast. He had some wheel issues that prevented him from finishing the race up front. I tell you, that's a real quick driver, qualified third. Look for him to be a factor at the end of this race.
And I was talking with the drivers before the race, and there were a lot of confident drivers down there in the drivers' meeting coming out of that room. Um, if I had to pick, Robert's an awesome pick, and I think he's going to be right up there through the entirety of this race. But I have to go with my boy Randall Coleman again tonight. I went with him last week, and he didn't get that win that I needed him to, but I think tonight might be the night he can get it done. Another guy to watch out for is the 88 of Darren Ingram, who was very fast in practice. Be interesting to see if Darren can put together a complete race tonight and try to win.
Yeah, you make a good point there about both Darren and Randall Coleman. And another driver, obviously, to look out for is David Day, who qualified on the pole 7/hundredths of a second faster than Darren Ingram. And both those drivers we talked about right there are on the front row, David Day and Darren Ingram.
Yeah, we
And of
just
course,
saw.
both our picks are on the second row.
Yeah, we just saw David Day take a nasty spill there going into turn one. He drives away. Hopefully, he is okay.
I hope that car's okay too, man. That was a pretty big hit.
And we'd again like thank everyone for tuning in tonight on Twitch, and also everyone that will be watching this race replay on YouTube. Tonight's event is going to be 100 laps. These drivers will most likely only need to make one pit stop, but as we touched on before, tires will be pretty important, and we'll most likely see a lot of these guys coming down pit road every chance that they get. As the cars are currently pulling on the or getting out onto the grid, you hear them calling the drivers to their vehicles. You'll see them populate your screen here, but Tommy, would you like to take us through the starting lineup?
Yeah, sure, Joe, I would. All right, everyone. Well, we got pretty good field here for our Martinsville race. We got 13 drivers on the front row. Winning the pole, we have the number 5 of David Day. Making up the end of the first row was Darren Ingram in the 88 car. Moving on to the second row, we have the 18 of Robert Balcom and the number 9 of Randall Coleman in the Switch Chevrolet Camaro. Row number 3 sees the 15 of Matt Watkins, last week's winner, and the number 6 of Greg Lavelle in the 08 car. In row 4, we have the 66 Chevrolet of Alex Gordon, number 1 of Zach Rostowski, and there's the command to fire the engines as we head on to row 5, the number 4 of Cody Luke, and the number 07 of James Moore. Now, rounding out the field, we have the 32 of Bobby Farrell, Andrew Miller in the 47, and Bill Murnahan makes up your final driver, number 3, Goodwrench Chevrolet.
As the field comes off at turn 4, green flag quickly getting displayed. We are underway here at Martinsville.
And there we go, David Day already pulling away a little bit, single file up front. Looks like Robert Balcom looking to get around Darren Ingram for second.
It'll be interesting to see because obviously the bottom line is the preferred groove here. You saw the 5 wash up in the center of the corner. That's going to leave the door open for the 18 of Balcom going into 1 here on lap 2.
Now, so many times at Martinsville, we see a driver get caught on the outside, unable to hold their position or unable to pass out there. That inside line is very much preferred, and right here looks like Robert Balcom's taking advantage of that. He's looking for the lead.
It's a drag race to lead lap 2. Give it to the 5 here coming into turns 1 and 2 on lap 3. Balcom pushes up the track, kind of pushes the 5 up, but they give each other plenty of room down the backstretch.
Boys still side by side, Joe, and you can see David Day getting a good run on the high side on the straightaways, but of course Balcom keeping it even in the turns. It's going to be interesting to see who wins this dogfight and also whether or not they want to continue doing it. I mean, we're very early in the race. You got to know they're wearing the tires out more than the drivers behind them who are single file. Looks like it's all single file back to the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of lap times these guys start putting down as we get later in a run. Looking at that tire fall off, especially if we get some shorter runs throughout the event. You saw a little bit of smoke on the 88. 88's into the wall. Looks like he overcooked that corner. No caution on the speedway. Darren loses about, 4 or 5 spots there?
Yeah, and it could be pretty costly. Like I mentioned at the start of the broadcast, track position is so important right now as we see Robert Balcom almost clearing David Day up front. Like I mentioned, track position very important here. Darren Ingram, we know he's a fast driver. He's just got to work his way back up to the front, be patient, keep his head down, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and what does it say for a driver? If you make a mistake early, there's time to rebound. Do you think that this short of a race, though, that statement holds true?
Well, there's certainly time with 100 laps to go. If you make a mistake now, it's not a death sentence. But I'd say if this was like halfway or 3/4 of the way through the race, it could be. So he's still got time in this scenario. But man, I'll tell you what, he's got to get on it if he wants to be up front by the end of this thing.
As we continue to watch the battle for the lead, the 5 of David Day, it looks like he can get into the corners a lot. He can go farther into the corner, but the 18 just beats him off. It'll be interesting to see if the 5's using up his tires a little bit more here, taking that more aggressive approach.
Yeah, and Robert Balcom in the 18's kind of taken away his line a little bit into 1. You see David Day's entering up a little bit higher. It might not be where he wants to be, but you can see right now the 18 doing a great job out in front. Those top 2 are pulling away from 3rd place Randall Coleman in the 9.
As we continue to watch here this battle for the lead, we'd like to remind you to check out the JTN Facebook page, as well as checking out, when you check out that page, you'll see links to all of the race replays that have previously been done, as well as, if you follow that page, you'll see posts when we go live here. As Robert Balcom continues to lead here at Martinsville, kind of picking up where he left off last season.
Yes, certainly, Joe, and that's why he was my pick. I mean, he was strong here. I know myself and Davey Hazard had some great battles with him here at Martinsville, and right now he's proven me right as far as the pick game goes. Doing a great job getting a little bit of a distance away from David Day, and of course the rest of the field now about 2 seconds behind these leaders, so really doing a great job putting the pedal to the metal here at Martinsville. But you got to wonder, Joe, those tires, we mentioned them earlier, are they going to be okay?
Well, I'd start to worry. 2 seconds is a lot of time, especially because we have such a small field. So I feel like, with these cars being under fixed setup conditions, everyone's got the same stuff. They might be using up that Goodyear rubber a little too soon for my liking. But I'm sure they've got it all figured out with their crews and engineers. See, the 88,
sure
88 just got into the 15. Caution not out on the speedway. Looks like everyone drives away from it, but the 88 cooked it into turns 1 and ended up getting 2 positions out of it.
Wow, and I think, you know what, Joe, that's a product, like I said earlier, he's got to get back to the front. It's just kind of that frustration that can happen when you have an early incident. Right now, the 15's struggling. It's got the 08 on the inside, a little bit of contact there as we head out of turn 4. And looks like Matt Watkins might lose another spot here to the to the elder Lavelle in the '08. I don't know if he's the elder Lavelle. We'll see.
You see the 15 still here. See, the '08 got washed up the track a decent amount there. As we go back to our
Yeah.
battle for the lead.
Now, that battle of the lead's been pretty interesting here. See, David Day is hanging around Robert Balcom right now, and he really does get them, like you mentioned earlier, in the entry. Boy, I'll tell you what, Balcom pulls away on those straights. Right now, the gap about 2/10, 2.5 tenths of a second, but that's still definitely within striking range for David Day.
So, we keep seeing the 5. You see smoke coming off of those right side tires. What is he doing? What can he do to stop that smoke? Stop overusing those tires going into the corner.
Well, it's just a matter of being careful with the brakes. I mean, it's a long race to go. Those brakes are going to heat up to very high temperatures if you keep using them like that. I think it's going to be important he backs up the corner a little bit, and it might actually help him with his drive off the corner. Speaking of which, 19 laps into this race, I want to give a shout out to Joseph Weaver, owner of Weaver Media Company, very prominent sponsor here at Martinsville and a great friend of mine. But yeah, looking at David Day, like I mentioned, looks like Robert Balcom has a better drive off the straights, while David Day's really fighting that car into the corners, pushing it harder. So you got to take a look there. Maybe he needs to back it up and get a better drive, which not only will help him catch up to Balcom, but also save those tires a little bit too.
Well, and they continue to pull away from the third place car of Randall Coleman as we watch him on the screen. But Randall is pulled away from the rest of the field here.
Yeah, right now this field's becoming more and more spread out, but still single file pretty much everywhere. And you've got these leaders nearly 5 seconds ahead now. You got Randall Coleman in no man's land, and then a group of 3 cars with Alex Gordon trailing them. I'll tell you what, this field's pretty spread apart, but Joe, you know it's Martinsville. Cautions can happen at any time. All it's going to take is one car to maybe overcook it into a corner like we saw earlier with Darren Ingram in the '88, get into the back of a car, could have a yellow, but I'll tell you what, right now, things are spread apart pretty nice.
As we go back to Darren Ingram in that '88 car, you see the 15 is now closing in behind him. It'll be interesting to see what the 15 does once he gets to the '88's rear bumper after that contact earlier in the race.
Yeah, I don't think he's too happy either. Matt Watkins was very comfortably in a higher top 3 position, and right now, all the way back in 5th, he's trying to get his way back up there, able to get around Lavelle in the '08, but trying to get back 4th place.
Do you think he uses the bumper this early in the race?
It's hard to say. I've raced with Matt Watkins before, and I don't think he's that kind of driver, but anything can happen at Martinsville. Tempers can flare pretty quick at these short tracks, as you know.
Oh, and the '08 is around in the corner and comes back down on the track. That's going to bring out our first caution. Look.
Ooh, almost gets into the 66 there. Yeah, like I said, that's our first caution. It could happen anytime, even with cars in single file, and there it is there.
And the 2 drivers that hate to see that caution at this point would be the 18 and the 5. Am I correct?
You are absolutely correct, Joe. They were 6 seconds ahead of Randall Coleman in 3rd place during the time of that yellow, and I'll tell you what, that's the last thing they wanted to see. Looks like Robert Balcom actually pulled out to a little bit more of a lead against David Day, but unfortunately for them, going to go down pit road for the first time and get their service. Fortunately, they will get new tires. And it might be interesting to see these drivers on pit road now reacting to that yellow, being able to get down and get new tires. Like I mentioned, track position pretty important, but might see some takers on 2 tires. Here's a replay.
Yeah, as we saw that replay, the '08 looks like he went down into the corner too much, and it caused that car to go around there.
Yeah, and that can happen here. We've seen it before where drivers really push it into a corner and then that car gets away from them. It can happen pretty easily here at Martinsville. A lot of drivers drive the car into the corner pretty hard, and that can cause incidents if you're not too careful. Looks like Darren Ingram leapt his way up to the lead. What do you think about that, Joe?
Did he... Checking it, so we continue to check in with our pit reporters. Did he only take 2 tires?
Looks like he might have. Let's take a look here.
Because I
That'd be correct. He took 2 tires that last time by.
I would question that move because we talked about earlier in the pre-race how tires were going to be at a premium this evening here at Martinsville. Um, Obviously, he knows something we don't. I mean, I didn't get in a car on track. Did you get in it? I don't think you got in a car on track. Um,
No, not this week, but I'll tell you what, Joe, like I mentioned, track position is important, and that's what he needed. This could be very interesting, though, because his pace is pretty good, and I want to see how he compares to Balcom in the 18 and David Day in the 5. Boy, it's going to be a really interesting setup here.
it's gonna be interesting to see. The lights are still on the pace car, indicating we're.
And something also to note, Joe, we're over a quarter of this race already completed, lap 29 out of 100 here. I'll tell you what, Joe, that's pretty interesting. Fast this race went by without any yellows until this one, so it could pay off. But I'll tell you what, they're going to be at the edge of what they're going to make on fuel, so they have to come down one more time if this thing stays green to the end. That'll be
If
pretty interesting to see how those tires play out for Ingham in the 88.
if you're one of these guys towards the back of the field, are you gonna come down here this last time by pit road to maybe top off and maybe try to save enough fuel to make it to the end of this race?
Maybe. I mean, it's hard to say whether or not that give you too much of an advantage. As we saw, the pace difference between the leaders and the back of the field was quite astounding. So it may be a situation where even if you do save fuel, you might go a lap down and then it all goes out the window at that point. So pretty interesting way that they could have a good strategy going for them there, but it's hard to say with such a short track. I don't think it'd pay off.
And we'd like to remind everybody, if you're in the watching us live on Twitch, you could use that chat box to communicate with us up in the booth, and we'd be happy to answer some of your questions. As we see, the pace car will be pulling off here, going into turn 3. The 88 of Darren Ingram will lead him back with the 18 of Robert Balcom to his outside. They'll be followed by the 5 of David Day and the 9 of Randall Coleman, and rounding out your top 5 will be the 15 of Matt Watkins. The cars come off at turn 4, and green flag is back out. We are back underway here at Martinsville.
A little bit of contact there between the 5 and the 88, and Robert Balcom getting a good run out on the high side. Let's see if he can hold that down the straight. Darren Ingram pulling away on the inside, though.
Yeah, we saw
Ooh, and a slicey move there for Robert Balcom in the 18.
that 5 really stuck it in deep there through the corner, and this battle for second might end up helping the 88 of Darren Ingram pull away.
Yeah, it definitely will. It's going to be interesting to see if he can make any ground on just 2 tires, but of course 2 right side tires is the ones that he wants the most anyway. He was fast in practice, fast in qualifying. He could be sitting pretty right now if those 2 get to racing, although it looks like Balcom. Here's the number 5.
Be interesting to see too, if maybe the 18 and the 5 take a little bit of a more conservative approach here, knowing that that 88 has some older tires. Maybe you can take advantage of that more so as the run goes on. As you see, the 5 goes way wide there through 3 and 4.
And it looks like we have another caution out on the track. I have to look to see what brought that out. Second caution of the day at lap 34.
Be interesting to see. And try to get you a replay here. Looks like it's going to be contact between James Moore in the 07 and the 47 of Andrew Miller. You see they're going down into turn 1. The 07 just washes up and makes contact with the 47, spinning him around. The 3 also involved there, although probably with very light damage.
Yeah, and by the end of this race at Martinsville, I mean, it seems like everybody always has damage anyway at the end of these things, but pretty interesting how you can see not only was that in the back of the field, but how it affected the leaders. Right now, we got Darren Ingram in the lead. He took 2 tires. That caution right now, he's still out in the lead.
As we'll go on board with the 3 going into turn 1, you're going to see the James Moore in that 07 just make slight contact with the 47, sending him around. Obviously a tough break for the 47 who was just minding his own business. He just got hit from behind there.
Yeah, nothing he could have really done about that. Martinsville's such a small track. If you make a mistake like the 07 did there, slide up a little bit, you can take out drivers pretty easy. So hopefully not too much damage on that 47 machine, and he'll be right back out there and being competitive in no time. Now, Joe, we've had a couple of great races here at JTN over the past couple of weeks. We started, of course, with Richmond, went to Talladega, and visited Dover last week, and now here at Martinsville. think's been your favorite race to broadcast so far?
Oh, I always like to say that the next one's gonna be my favorite because I want to bring the fans into it. I want to get them excited for another race. But out of the, I'm gonna say the three so far because I don't think we've seen everything that these drivers have for us tonight. Out of the first three, my favorite would have to just be that Talladega race with you, me, Davey, Davey Hazard, and Ryan Pace up in the booth. That was just a fun time calling that race, and we saw great teamwork between the drivers. We saw a couple of wrecks that were spectacular, and it just was all around. It was a fun race to call up here from
Yeah,
the
I
booth.
gotta I gotta agree with you on that one, Joe. It was fun to have both Davey and Ryan in the booth, along with yourself, of course. It was my first time up in the booth for JTN, and we saw a great finish and a great winner in Michael Murata. Home the checkered flag there. My pick. So I'm 1 for 1 on picks right now. My second pick here, Robert Balcom in second place. Boy, I could be 2 for 2 at the end of the night. Who knows?
Well, I'm going to be interested to see here on this restart if everything works out the same way as the last. That 5 has been kind of a little more aggressive going into the corner than some of these other guys, but the 88's also been. I'd like to see if he maybe slips up a little bit, maybe goes in a little too hard for those drivers in front of him here.
Yeah, and you mentioned both the 88 and the 18 and the 5 up there, the top three who have been kind of up towards there all night long, but also the 15 of Matt Watkins in fourth place right now. I know he wants to get to the front. He's very capable of it. Got set back last time. A little bit of contact with the 88 car, who's now in the lead. Should be pretty interesting to see how he's able to work his way up with the leaders here. To come off a turn 4, and green flag is out. We're back underway here at Martinsville.
As you see, the 18 got a really good restart there. Pulled a little bit ahead of the 88, but the 88's going to have him off a 2. He clears them. You see contact
Ooh,
towards
a
the
little
back.
bit of bumping around in the back there.
There's a lot of action going on here on this restart.
Yeah, looks like everybody stays straight. 18's trying to hang on the outside, but it looks like Darren Ingram, remember, 2 tires on that 88 car, they hang out in the lead.
Yeah, he cleared them, and then he quickly got back to that defensive line, running a little bit lower down the straightaway to make sure that he could cut off the 18's move to the bottom here.
Well, we've got 100 laps here tonight at Martinsville, and right now, completing lap 40, we've got 60 to go, and it's Darren Ingram in first place, for Robert Balcom in second place, David Day in third, Matt Watkins in fourth, and the number 1 car, the Allegiant Chevy of Zach Ruskowski in fifth, as we have another yellow here on the circuit.
As we continue to go through the field of 32 of Bobby Farrell and that STP Ford Mustang, as we pick up the pace car, is 6th, followed by the 66 of Alex Gordon. You see the 47 of Andrew Miller, and that Chevy Camaro goes down Parrott Road. He was in 8th. Cody Luke is... See, anytime we try to do something good, these drivers just... they mess it up for us. We'll try to get you a replay of that caution.
Yeah, kind of interesting here, Joe. We had a long green flag run to start the race, and now as I move on, we're having more and more yellows. I'll tell you what, it's that classic phrase, cautions breed cautions. I think we're seeing that right here.
Be interesting to see what caused this incident. Still,
We saw a lot of drivers kind of in the back jostling around on that restart. Looked like everybody got straight, but maybe there was some extracurriculars that happened just a lap later.
yeah, you see Randall Coleman goes here into turn 3, and James Moore just overcooks it and runs him over. They're turning him around, and then the 3-car Bill Murnahan gets involved again with another late little love tap on the car that got spun. That'll be James Moore's second caution of the race. Am I correct?
You would be correct. It's unfortunate. It looks like a picture perfect copy of the first one too. Just getting into a corner and turning somebody. That's unfortunate for Randall. He pitted on that last lap with a yellow last caution, got himself back to the rear of the field trying to make on fuel to the end of this thing, but unfortunately got caught up there with the yellow. I think he'll make his way back up. It didn't look too bad. As you see a good onboard there from Mr. Lavelle in the 08. Should be pretty interesting to see how Randall Coleman makes his way up through the field. Of course, he was strong earlier, hanging out in third place on the first run of this race.
Yeah, now that he's kind of gotten mired back in the pack, it seems like it's very difficult to try to make those moves to work your way up back towards the front. Not many cars pitting there. Do you think that track position is really coming into play here?
Oh, absolutely, Joe. And I mentioned it at the top of the broadcast as well. Track position here is a really huge key. I mean, it was last week at Dover, of course. The week before at Talladega meant nothing. But yeah, it's really key for these drivers to be able to be out at front. We saw Robert Balcom, even though he's on the outside and getting good restarts, he's not able to clear Darren Ingram at all. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how Coleman works his way up through the field. Hopefully, he restarts on the low line. That'll give him a little bit of an advantage, but should be pretty difficult if he wants to find his way back to the front top five.
As we see the 66 of our fellow JTN broadcaster Alex Gordon coming to pit road here. I think some of these guys might be under the impression that they got to get towards the back to stay out of these incidents, but all the incidents we've seen tonight have kind of come from that mid to back of the pack. Um,
Yeah, so far, but don't you forget that we're not quite halfway through here. I mean, we've got looks like 46 laps to go. Sorry, 66 laps to go. 56 laps to go right now. So these drivers are the intensity is gonna pick up. These drivers are gonna get really aggressive here later on. Could see some incidents up towards the front as we head out of turn 4. Pace car lights are off, and it goes down pit road, and we are back green here at Martinsville. Balcom with a good restart again on the outside line.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a push from who was behind him, and that being the 15 of Matt Watkins. They're still side by side through 1 and 2. The 88 looks to clear him, but can't get it done off of 2. Going down here into 3 and 4, it'll be interesting to see what happens. 88 looks like he hit that curving on the bottom, sent him up the track. Manages to keep off the 18, but the 18 now has the lead here at Martinsville.
Robert Balcom pulling off the impossible, making a pass on the outside line on Darren Ingram. Remember, that 88 car only has 2 right side tires compared to these guys who have 4 fresh ones, pit stops ago. Looks like the 18 able to pull away from Ingram that lap, and now Darren Ingram under pressure from the number 5 of David Day.
Be interesting to see because both these guys have been really aggressive on their entry into the corners here, kind of going a little later on the brakes so that way they can maybe make that corner a little bit sharper. You see the 5, they're both kind of washing up into the center of the corner. The 88 got high off that corner. See, just all the smoke coming off from them locking up those brakes.
Yeah, and this is going to bring the number 15 car, Matt Watkins, into the picture. Just a car length back from David Day for 3rd place, and the 5 car getting real close to 88 that time by in turn 4.
It will be interesting to see as we're getting into the second half of the race here in a few laps. If that intensity is going to start going up between these leaders. We've seen some incidents towards the back of the field, but will we start seeing some cautions up front? Here you see the 5 gets to the inside of the 88 down the front stretch.
Yeah, Joe, we definitely have the potential as right now we're at 50 to go. We're halfway through this race. David Day on the inside of the 88 car, and Matt Watkins trying to follow him through. That 88 looks like he might be struggling on those 2 tires. It worked for him last time, but this restart, it hadn't paid off too much. Meanwhile, Robert Balcom's away. He's got his lead almost up to a second.
As we watch the 18 of Robert Balcom start to pull away from the field, it'll be interesting to see if the 5 can kind of close back in on him. These drivers, it's under our estimation that they won't have to pit again, correct?
They shouldn't have to, but I think it might be close. I think we're probably going to see another yellow here in the next 50 laps. I mean, that's a long way to go. And looking at the trends of the last 3 Martinsville races, we do have a caution within the last 15 laps of the event, so I think we're going to see another one here. But right now, they're staying green in single file all throughout the pack.
As we'll continue to watch the leader here, the 18 of Robert Balcom. He's done a great job of kind of just managing this race. After the 88 took the strategy call taking the 2 tires, he didn't try to overdo it, trying to take back the lead. Kind of interested to see if he continues that philosophy or he starts to push the car here as we get into the home stretch of the race.
Well, I think you mentioned something pretty important, and that's being a race manager. I mean, right now, he's about 7/10 ahead of David Day in 2nd place. The time, the gap isn't really changing that much. He doesn't have to push the car and get himself out to a 2-second lead. There's no real purpose to that. So right now, I think he's doing a very good job just maintaining that gap, not overdriving the car, and making David Day work to get to him. And I think right now, the 18 of Robert Balcom, my pick, of course, as you remember at the top of the race, done a great job doing just that. The gap holding pretty steady at about 6-7 tenths.
Yeah, I think if this race, if it were to go green, which is a big if, at this point, it looks like that 18 is really the class of the field. He was able to, on that first long green flag run, he and the 5 pulled away from the field, and then he managed to pull away from the 5. We'll do a JTN through the field here. You see the 18 of Robert Balcom, currently your leader. He's followed by the 5 of David Day. Third is the 15 of Matt Watkins. Fourth is the 88 of Darren Ingram. Following him in fifth is the 1 of Zach Krastowski, but as we talk about him, in sixth is Randall Coleman, and seventh is Greg Lavelle. Eighth is the 32 of Bobby Farrell, followed by Cody Luke in ninth, and rounding out your top 10 is the 66 of Alex Gordon. 11th is Andrew Miller in that number 47 Chevy Camaro, involved in that second incident on the day, and following him is the 3 of Bill Murnahan.
Hey, Joe, you mentioned when you're going through the field that number 9 of Randall Coleman back in sixth, and we saw him up in third earlier in this race. We talked about track position being important. He was towards the back of the field right now, 4.5 seconds back and trying to get around Zach Krastowski on the outside. He makes the pass. I'll tell you what, though, Joe. I mean, he was up there in third place, only about a second or two back from these leaders to start this race, and now coming on 40 laps left, he's 5 seconds back and only in fifth place. Track position really mattered for him, and he's struggling to get his way back up to the front.
Well, he was also involved in that last incident, so any track position he had at that point, he had to come down to pit road. Or, not the last incident. The last incident? Yeah, the last incident he was involved in.
Last one.
See, we didn't even have that many tonight. And
No,
I'm already
so far,
losing
this
track.
race has been pretty clean. You make a good point there. I mean, what it could have been with these drivers, with Martinsville being the short track that it is and the number of cars we have, things could have had a much different turn of events. But so far, it's been pretty clean, I got to say.
As we see the 9 and the 08, they're starting to pull away from the 1. But they're in a pretty hot battle for 5th here. So go back up to our leaders. The 18 of Robert Balcom is kind of pulled away from the 5 of David Day, but they're both maintaining a decent lead on the third place runner, the 15 of Matt Watkins.
Yeah, they certainly are. And look at that number 88 car of Darren Ingram there, fourth. He's dropping back now 3.3 seconds, 3.5 seconds from the list leaders. I'll tell you what, he was trying to be aggressive with that strategy. When interviewed before the race on Chances Today, he said one thing. He said, I want to win. He made that strategy call to take 2 tires, and it worked out for him for a little bit, but right now, kind of struggling. It'll be interesting to see if he can pull that again on the next yellow, or if he has to take 4 tires on this next stop.
If I was him, I'd be taking 4 tires on that next stop, because I have a feeling a lot of these guys that are, at least the 3 guys in front of him will also be in the mindset, I'm taking 4 tires because I have the track position. There might be a couple guys behind that are going to take 2. I think a prime suspect for that would be the 9 of Randall Coleman, who has shown speed throughout the weekend. Here you see the 88 he's taking this more diamond approach to the corner where he's going high through the center. I think it's gonna be, if we do get another caution, it'll be interesting to see if these drivers, what the strategy call is, considering the way the race has gone for some of them. The 88, he took those 2 tires earlier. It worked out in the short run. So say we get a caution with 10 or so laps to go. Is that kind of the window where you want to take 2 tires?
Well, you could consider it, but I gotta say, if we have this long run like we've been having right now, 4 might be the way to go. So you gotta ask yourself, can you win from the second row? If you're strong enough of a driver in a car, you might have a shot, but it's gonna be very difficult. You might see some people take tires, but it also depends how many. If you're the only one that takes 2 tires on a 10-lap run after such a long green flag run like we've had, it might be pretty difficult for you to stay up there, especially if someone gets a nose underneath you, be sliding back for a while and give up a good finish. So here we go, lap 69. Nice. Looks like David Day's pulled up back to the 18 of Robert Balcom. He wants to look for the lead soon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I have a feeling that 18 car is maybe saving those tires a little bit, maybe make a strategy move. As you already see, he's starting to slide up, leaving that door or window on the inside open for the 5. It'll be interesting to see how this race plays out between these 2 drivers.
Yeah, coming to 30 to go here, and I'll tell you what, that gap down to just 0.2 of a second, a couple car lengths separating these drivers up front. This is going to be a very interesting race if it plays out and goes green at the end.
Yeah, it speaks to the point of, as you're leading this race, as a leader, what are you doing differently as this 5 of David Day has kind of closed the gap through these last 10 or so laps?
Well, you can't focus on him in the mirror. He's there. You got to just acknowledge him. Don't let him impact your race. Just because he's getting closer, don't overdrive the corners. You see, Malcolm might have gotten on the curb a little bit there. Didn't help him out at all, and that's what you got to avoid right now. No mistakes just because the guy's closing in on a mirror. You got to drive your line, hold the bottom line, don't make any mistakes or give him any room down low. You just got to drive your race right now, especially on older tires. It's going to be harder for him to get around him, so you have the good track position. Just stay up there and don't give him anything down low.
And if I'm in that 5 car right now, I'm thinking I got to try to start putting the pressure on this 18. I got to make sure he knows I'm here. Whether that's peeking my nose to the inside down the straightaway, even if I don't have position, or, kind of trying to close the gap as much into the corner as I can. As you see the 47 of Andrew Miller on pit road to try to get a report on that. Um, as these two continue to battle for the lead, we're in our... We're starting to catch the 3 car who will be lap traffic here. Not a lot of lap traffic tonight, but how will navigating this 3 car in the next couple laps play into the finish of this race?
Well, I can tell you from personal Martinsville experience racing online here in various events that lap traffic can play a huge role. I've had some many great races here, as you see Bill Murnahan in the 3 going high there, letting the leaders by. It's nice of him. Lap traffic can play a huge role, especially if guys are trying to fight for their laps to stay on the lead lap or to be the lucky dog driver. It'll be very difficult to navigate through them, and it can impact the race quite a bit, especially at a track that's so line sensitive as Martinsville. You don't want to go high, but if they force you to go high, be a bad day, especially if you're, say, Robert Balcom in the lead.
Yeah, and if you're sometimes we talk about at intermediate tracks using a car as a pick. Is that also a valid thing here at Martinsville at a short track?
It could, but I think with the field we have and the number of cars we have, you might not see it as much here. I think a lot of these drivers well, of course, it's a fast racing league. They're very respectful. They'll get out of your way if they are off the pace and the leaders are coming. But we'll see, because I think as this race develops, you're going to see a lot tighter battles, possibly in other small groups throughout the field, and they're going to be fighting for every position still. As this race develops, we're closing in on just 20 laps to go now, really getting to crunch time. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive these lapped cars are. And I'm getting a report from the 47, Joe. It looks like they had a terminal engine failure, had to pull it down pit road, and they are out of the race.
That is unfortunate for that 47 team. They were having a good run tonight, and you kind of want to see those teams start to build momentum as we head into segment 2 here. The second race is segment 2 in the Friends of Sim Racers Tour Racing League Mountain Dew Dash Series, presented by the Fast Racing League, TDR Racing League, and Field Racing Leagues. Um, Last season, in 2019, the Dash Series was a single segment. It was a 20-something race sprint to the finish. How, as a driver, is your mindset different when you have kind of a longer time, whereas traditionally you have 15 to 20 races to win a championship, but here you only have 8.
Well, it's a very different mindset. I mean, it really puts a premium on good, solid finishes. And I'll tell you what, Joe, what it really does, you can't have a bad race. That's why if I'm going for the points right now, let's say Randall Coleman in the 5 car, you've got 1 car ahead of you, the 88 of Darren Ingram, who you know is on 2 tires, who's a little bit slower. You get the 08 behind you right now. Now, if this thing goes green to the end, it's going to be hard for Randall to get up to the front and win this race. So I think what he's got to do right now is do the safe thing and go get a good points finish. He can't afford to fall back in the field and get a, say, 10th place or 9th place finish. Don't take that risk. Get the safe top 5 and get your points and move on, because I'll tell you what, one bad race with a short season like this, you could be out of it.
And this segment of the championship also has another short track in Iowa in a few weeks, and that'll be interesting to see how that race plays out. As Iowa, do you consider Iowa a short track?
I think I would. Definitely, but I'll tell you what, it can race like a super speedway, man. It's a really fun track to not only race but also watch, and it always puts on a great event. One of those drivers getting a little bit on the curb as they exit turn number 4. This battle's really heating up at the front of the field here, Joe.
Yeah, it'll be. We're coming up on lap traffic. You see the 66, the 32, and the 4, I believe, up here in front of them as the 5 gets to the outside here. Really cinching into the corner. It's going to lose time off of turn 4.
Boy, he's really trying, Joe. He's giving it everything he has. But like I mentioned, you're going to see these little groups of racing up here of these lapped cars. They might not be so inclined to let these leaders by as easy as possible. They want their own spots as well.
Again, the five just, it looks like he can get into the corners so much better, but the 18 just does a great job of getting that drive off and kind of holding that low line, which is obviously the preferred line here at Martinsville. It'll be interesting to
Yeah, I
see
think.
if the
Go
five
ahead,
can
Joe.
get to his bumper without, doing something dirty. If he
We'll
can,
see. And you saw earlier in the race a couple people get on some bumpers of other drivers. I don't know if David Day's going to do that now with all these lap traffic in front of them, but I'll tell you what, they're side by side in front of him. This is going to get interesting.
you see the 66 of Alex Gordon, he pulls all the way down to the bottom of the speedway. The 4 is going to go way high to give room
Three
to these
wide, a little bit
leaders.
of contact there.
Fantastic racing. Everyone gets through clean. If I'm the 18, I'm screaming on the radio right now at that 4 car, kind of like making that late decision to stay high through the corner.
Yeah, that's got to be really frustrating. They got one more in front of them. That's Bobby Farrell in the 32 car in that STP Ford. Right now, the 18 under heavy pressure from David Day. As we head to 10 to go, Joe, it's the TWB 10 to go. Let me tell you, TWB, for over a decade, TWB has provided companies and consumers alike with products and services that make business happen from a brand you can trust. For more information, visit us online at twb.com. TWB, let's do this together. That was your TWB 10 to go. Now 9 laps to go, and David Day really putting the pressure on the number 18 of Robert Balcom.
He's right there, almost makes contact with the 32 off the corner. You saw the 4 take a hard lick there, too. And the 5's going to lock up the wheels, cross, try to get a run, and here he goes into the inside here of the 18, going into turn 1. The 5 made an amazing move through that corner to get the position going into this corner and clears the 18 off.
Wow, that was a power move. I mean, it didn't look too good to begin with coming out of turn 4, but man, he got such a great run out of there. Able to get the inside of my pick, Robert Balcom, who's in second now. He's been leading race long. And now in lap 94 of 100, and it's David Day in the lead.
Yeah, that was a fantastically timed move. He waited till the right moment to seize that inside line coming off the corner, make sure he had position going into the next set of corners. And now as he starts to pull away from the 18 here.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Joe, what he might have been doing, waiting behind Robert Balcom all those laps, saving his tires. Like the 18's falling back a little bit.
You see, we're coming to the end of this race here. Can the 18 get back to that 5? It's looking less and less likely here.
It's going to be hard for him. I mean, he's going to want a miracle. He's going to want a yellow right now, or this race is going to be over. It might be over sooner if there's a yellow. So right now, I think the only thing he has is a hope and a prayer to win this thing.
After dominating a race like that, that's got to be really disappointing for the driver of that 18.
Oh, it's definitely got to hurt. And I've been in that position before where I've led seemingly all race long, and then right at the end, you get nipped for the victory. David Day right now did a great job being able to be patient, wait behind the 18. Then he saw his opportunity and took it through some lap traffic. And right now, just 4/10 back as Robert Balcom. He's hanging around. Going to be awfully tough to get back around that number 5 car.
See if that 18 can start sending it into the corner a little harder. It looks like he did that time, but the 5 is going to get a great drive off again here, similar to how he did it to make the pass for the lead.
Yeah, he was able to close up a 10th that last lap. Coming by this time, he might have lost a little bit. And he lost another 10th, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see. Now, 2 laps to go here from Martinsville, and David Day pulling away from Robert Balcom in the 18.
Yeah, they'll get the white flag this time by here. It looks like it's going to... A Camaro's going to win this race. You see David Day takes the white flag here, goes into turn 1, try to be smooth as silk here on this last lap. He gets a great run through the corner and continues to pull away from the 18.
Yeah, and you can wrap this thing up and put a bow on it. Looks like David Day in the number 5 car making a late race move is going to win here at Martinsville.
What a fantastic drive by that 5 cars. Oh, the 18.
Bit of contact there after the finish. Boy, that was a la Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth.
I hope that was friendly contact, at least.
I'll tell you what, he might have had some brake issues. You know, the 18 was pushing so hard in those last couple laps. Might have faded them quite a bit, as you see Randall Coleman as well going around a little bit at the end there. What a race, Joe. I mean, it had everything. We managed to get a long green flag run there at the end that saw some lap traffic coming up, and David Day took advantage and took over the lead from Robert Balcom, who led pretty much all race long, except for the final lap.
As you see, the 5 of David Day burns it down here at Martinsville. Thank you again to everyone for tuning in here on twitch.tv/Johto2. I'd like to remind you to go out onto facebook.com and search for JTN, the Johto Network, for all of your NR 2003 streaming needs. If you'd like to get a series or race broadcast, you can contact that page and our JTN representative will get back to you within the day. Tommy, I'd like to thank you again for joining me up here in the booth. It was a fantastic time, and we hope to see all of our viewers next week as the Friends of Sim Racers Tour Mountain Dew Dash Series heads to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. This has been your presentation of the Dash Series on JTN. I'm Joe Twansky, signing out for myself and Tommy Bordeaux, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you.